Hey YouTube, I am Jess Wilson, functional nutritionist, guest speaker, all-round wellness coach, and today I am diving into such a controversial topic, such a popular topic. What milk should you have in your coffee? I'm doing this today because I feel like this has become such a personal crisis for so many people, is understanding the pros and cons of all of the different milks. And how do we choose what's right for us? There is so much confusing information out there on the internet, and we want to debunk some of that so that you can make the best health choices for you and your body. So I'm going to go through all of the different milks with you today. Stick with me. We'll talk about cow's milk, we'll talk about soy milk, oat milk, almond milk, coconut milk, and I'm going to hopefully help to cut through some of the confusion for you, to debunk some of those myths so that you can go away and make some educated and informed decisions about your body and your health. This is what I love to do, is empower people with the knowledge that they need to go and make better healthy eating choices. That is the most important gift that I can give you. I'm on a mission to do that for the world. So please don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel, share it with your friends, and feel free to comment anytime. I'm happy to answer questions. So let's get into it. If you're a coffee drinker or a tea drinker, or you're somebody that's been on a healthy eating journey for a while, you'll know that something that is highly personal to you is the milk that you choose to have in your coffee. But never, ever has there been so much confusion in the nutritional world. It's like you can go to a cafe now and there are like 12 different milk options, and it's almost paralysis by analysis. There are so many to choose from that you literally don't know what to do. Every time you jump on Google and you ask the question of what milk you should be drinking, or you research what, the pros and cons of oat milk, you're going to get an answer both ways. And that's going to make it even more confusing for you to know what to choose. So I'm here to give you some really, really basic pros and cons of each of those milks today, and to give you some ways to critically think about, a large volume of stuff that we're putting in our bodies every morning. Now, I like coffee. I'm a coffee drinker. I'm a functional nutritionist, but I do like my coffee. I drink really good quality organic coffee, and I am super particular about the milk that I put in it, because in the morning, we want to make sure that we're giving our body nutrients. We want to make sure that that coffee or that tea is working for us. We want to make sure that it's actually something that's going to benefit our bodies and not create a whole state of inflammation and brain fog and bloating that's going to stick with you through the day. And the body is an interesting machine. Sometimes when you're having reactions to certain milks or certain foods, it's actually your body doing exactly what it is supposed to do in response to something that isn't good for you. It's just figuring out what it is. And the one thing that I want to tell you is that just because it looks like a healthy alternative, just because the clever marketing agencies have told you that it's fortified with this, or that it's a better alternative to that, that does not necessarily mean that that's true. And this is why self-education is absolutely key. It's critical. So let's get into it. Let's unpack all of the different milks that you can have in your coffee and which one is potentially the better one for you. First thing I want to talk about is straight old dairy, good old cow's milk. I think it was the movement from dairy and from cow's milk away to different forms of milk that's really started this whole debate. So let's talk about the pros and cons, okay? The pros of dairy, the pros of cow's milk is really that it's one ingredient, and human beings have been drinking it for centuries. Now, I just want to precursor all of this by saying I am not attached to any one of these milks. I'm not here to tell you what milk to drink. I'm here to give you the information, and you're going to go away and piece it all together and make that decision for yourself. So my job is to give you the information. I'm not pro or anti any of these, but what I am is pro good, clean, whole foods. So dairy, obviously human beings, the pros of dairy is that we've been drinking it for centuries, and it is, generally speaking, one ingredient for your body to process, right? So that is a big benefit these days to drinking cow's milk or to having dairy in your diet. The cons of dairy, though, can be pretty complex. You know, it's estimated that up to 70% of the population doesn't tolerate dairy very well. So you might experience some pretty unpleasant side effects, things like bloating, things like constipation, skin issues, sinus, ear, nose, and throat issues, immune system issues, brain fog. There are many different signs that your body can give you saying, I'm really struggling to process this food. Many people lack the enzymes to be able to break the sugar in the milk down. Many people react to the protein because their immune systems are on overdrive, and that protein is something that really just doesn't agree with them in their gut. It's too hard to break down. And some people also struggle when they're having a large amount of dairy with the hormones in the milk, because you have to remember that milk is food for baby cows. There's going to be a hormonal component there to what is in that milk. There is going to be growth hormones and things that are going to impact your body. So the cons of dairy are really about reactivity and whether your body can actually break that dairy down and use it as a health food, or whether it becomes an inflammatory target for your immune system. And the best way to know that is really to understand your body and what it's trying to tell you. If you have milk in your diet and you find that your digestive system is upset for the rest of the day, or you're bloated, or you're struggling with constipation, skin issues, eczema, acne, brain fog and joint pain, and all of these different signs and symptoms, ear, nose, and throat issues, then it would be a great idea to remove dairy from your diet and see, or remove dairy from your coffee and see if it makes a difference. Many people do feel better when they get off the cow's milk in the morning. And remember also, it's a volume issue. If you're drinking 2 large lattes a day from your favorite cafe, that's like 500 mils of milk that you're drinking. It's a lot for your body to process. One of the things that people do with dairy is that they can explore using butter or fresh cream instead of the milk, which can lessen the reactivity because it's got less of the protein in it. But again, that's a bio-individual thing, up to you, that you really have to work on. But those are my pros and cons of dairy. The pros are that it's one ingredient, and particularly if you're getting it straight from the farm, if it's a really good quality dairy, then potentially it could be a good food for you. The cons of dairy is the reactivity, what we've done to the milk, the quality of the milk, how our immune systems are reacting, how our gut is reacting, and our skin. And really, that's where we have to figure out whether dairy is for you or not. If you go off dairy for a period of time, you go off the milk in your coffee and you feel better, that's probably a pretty good answer. Now I want to talk about soy milk. So I think, soy milk was one of the first alternatives that came in to dairy milk. And let's talk about the pros of soy milk. So I get the pros of soy milk is that it was an easy alternative for people. It tasted pretty good in coffee. It's an easy alternative. It's obviously plant-based for those people who don't do animal products. But soy became the next dairy. I remember the days where you would go to a cafe and the only 2 options that you had was cow's milk or soy milk. And for people that couldn't tolerate cow's milk, soy was the easy option, and many of the brands out there became really tasty. They became really creamy, and it was a good alternative to have in your coffee. The cons of soy, though, really come down to hormones and to the quality of that soy. So we know that having large amounts of soy is estrogenic. So if you have issues with your hormones, if you have estrogen issues, if you have a hormone overload in your body, then consuming a large amount of soy milk is definitely not for you, because it does have the potential to raise your estrogen levels. If you're somebody that doesn't have any of those issues and you tolerate soy really well, because for some people, soy can induce the exact same digestive reaction as dairy, which can be confusing if you come off the dairy and you go onto soy and you're still having the same problems. But it is also a protein that can be quite difficult for your gut to break down. So if you're not having any of those hormonal issues, then perhaps soy could be an option for you. But again, I would challenge you on the amount that we're drinking. Half a liter of soy milk a day is probably not an ideal amount. It's a nice to have. But those are the pros and cons of soy. So the pros of soy is that it's readily available. Most people really like the taste. And it was a good alternative to dairy when it came in at the time. The cons of soy milk come down to hormones. It can really mess with your hormonal balance. You can still have a gut reaction to it if you have a delicate digestive system. Let's get into oat milk. So oat milk is very popular at the moment. There is a huge movement into oat milk. And of course, with anything, there are going to be pros and cons, right? The pros of oat milk really come down to the taste. I think people are absolutely loving oat milk because of the taste in the coffee. You can make it really creamy. Obviously, oats are readily available. It's a relatively cheap alternative where some of the other brands of things like, almond milk can be really expensive. But it's a great barista option. That is a pro of oat milk. The cons of oat milk, there are quite a few. So number one, if you are on a weight loss journey and you are somebody who is potentially trying to control your insulin levels and get your weight down, manage your blood sugar, then starting your day with a big cup of carbohydrates, which is what oats are, is probably not a good idea. So oats definitely have a negative in terms of spiking your blood sugar in the morning because they are sourced from carbohydrates. So they're going to have a higher carb content than other milks. That's a fact. The second thing about oats is that if you are somebody that is reactive to grains, if you are someone that tends to inflammation, if you have issues with gluten, then oats can be very inflammatory for your body. And you might find that you actually get really puffy, really swollen, really inflamed, joint pain, brain fog, and you struggle with a lot of the same symptoms on a daily basis by switching to oat milk. So oat milk is potentially not for you. If you're on a weight loss journey, if you're trying to manage your blood sugar, and if you're trying to keep the levels of inflammation in your body down, remember that a lot of the oat milks out there are coming from poor quality oats that have been sprayed with glyphosate. It's really not an ideal thing to be putting in your body in the morning. So we know it tastes great. We know that we love the taste and it's really good alternative for coffees. However, you really want to question whether it aligns with your goals in terms of having that amount of carbohydrates first thing in the morning. And you also want to question the quality of that oat milk. And you also want to have a really good deep look at whether you're suffering from any kind of inflammation in your body, whether that's injury, whether it's gut inflammation, whether it's mood disorders, whether it's joint pain, whether it's skin issues. But consuming a large amount of grain-based milk in the morning is going to potentially add to that inflammatory bucket for you. Alrighty, so that's oat. Let's talk about almond milk, right? So again, almond milk now has become, widely available everywhere. And there seem to be kind of two sliding scales with almond milk, right? So you either get the really watery stuff that you buy in the supermarket that people try and they go, oh, I hate that because they've come from full cream dairy and it just tastes like watery nut juice. Nobody wants to drink it. And then you have the other end of the scale where you have your cafe almond milks that are very smooth and very creamy, but we have to question why. So the benefits of almond milk now, I think, is that you can get it everywhere. You can get it everywhere at every cafe, and it because it's a lower carb option than something like oat milk. It has become the popular milk of choice, the popular non-dairy milk of choice, the almond milk. And if it's good quality almond milk that doesn't have a bunch of stuff added to it, any of the good quality nut milks potentially could be a good healthy thing to have in your diet, right? So I know people that make their own almond milk at home or cashew milk, macadamia milk, amazing. As long as you're not drinking a ton of it and raising your omega-6 profile, then that could potentially be a great alternative for you if you're on an elimination diet and you're needing to steer clear of dairy. The biggest issue, the biggest con that we have with almond milk, and particularly because it has become a big food movement, is the vegetable oils and the thickeners and the emulsifiers that are added to that almond milk to make it stable enough to make a creamy coffee. So the reason why a lot of the time your almond milk at your favorite cafe is so creamy and delicious is because it has a ton of vegetable oil, thickeners, or emulsifiers added to it. Those vegetable oils, thickeners, emulsifiers are absolutely toxic to the gut. And if you're drinking 2 cups of coffee in the morning, particularly if you're doing that on an empty stomach, that is going to wreak havoc with your gut in time. So when it comes to almond milk, label reading is key, because never has there been a more sneaky way to get vegetable oil on a daily basis into the population than through almond milk, because it is added to so many of these cafe brands. There are plenty out there that don't have that added. I personally here in Australia have some great good quality brands that are very clean, but you need to be checking your labels, because if you are frequently getting those coffees from your cafe, chances are you're just drinking a bunch of vegetable oil and thickeners every day and not really the almond milk that you thought it was. So almond milk is very, very, very much about reading labels. And you might find that it is a long time before you realize that it's not the almond milk, but it's what's been added to the almond milk that's causing you some of the health issues that you're still having. So the last one that I want to talk today about is coconut milk. Coconut milk is kind of a lesser known hero in all of this, right? So I talked about the pros of dairy being the fact that it's a single ingredient. If you're adding fresh cream or butter or milk to your coffee and you're somebody that can tolerate dairy, then as long as it's good quality dairy, it's actually potentially a reasonably healthy food for you, right? It's coming from a single source. It doesn't have anything added to it. It's been minimally processed. So that is a good pro of dairy milk. Well, the same can be said for coconut milk, but in a non-dairy way, right? I am a really, really big fan of having some quality coconut cream or coconut milk, organic, straight out of the tin in my coffee in the morning. Kind of ticks all the boxes. Single ingredient, no vegetable oils, no emulsifiers and thickeners, non-dairy, comes from a plant, thick and creamy, incredible source of healthy fats for your body, which is great for fat burning and for energy in the morning. There are a lot of wins for me when it comes to coconut milk. Obviously, with anything, you'd want to be reading your labels if you're getting coconut milk from your local cafe, for example. But coconut milk is actually a good alternative as far as I'm concerned in comparison to some of the others that I mentioned. The cons of coconut milk are the taste. Some people really don't like that overly sort of coconutty flavor, and then you've just got to play around with the things that you like or you don't like. But that's kind of where it ends, right? There's not many other cons to coconut milk unless you're on something like a carnivore diet, you're not eating any plant products. So that's my take today for all of you on the milk situation. It is a big debate, and I know that it's super personal, but you need to be armed with this information so that you can start to do your own research. You can start to have a look at particularly these foods that we're consuming on a daily basis and see if you can healthify them, see if you can find better brands, see if you can try different milk varieties, and always listen to your body. Always listen to what your symptoms are telling you, what your body's trying to tell you. We want to this is something that I coach in my programs, in my practice, and through my speaking events. We want to get out of that desire-based mindset. We want to stop using food as reward and punishment and social and, but I really, really want that. And we want to get into a needs-based mindset of what does my body need? How do I feel when I consume that food? And how can I show up for my body and give it what it's asking for and stop giving it what it's telling me not to? So that's everything that I have for you today on the milks. I hope you've loved the chat. Please please subscribe to my channel. There'll be plenty more coming. I'll be live on here every Friday. I hope that that's helped you to make sense out of some of the milk debate. And as always, I'll be more than happy to answer your questions anytime.